My unfaithful wife left me in the hospital. Now, 12 years later, she wants forgiveness. I am 33 years old, and up until recently, I was in what I thought was a happy relationship with my girlfriend, Jenna, who is 28. We had been together for a little over 2 years, and I honestly believed we were solid. Then, on a random Monday afternoon, I accidentally found out what she really thought of me. She was on the phone with her best friend, Dylan. I had never liked their friendship much, though I never said anything about it. She always assured me there was nothing between them, and I wanted to trust her. But when I overheard her conversation that day, it hit me like a truck. She was making fun of me. Not just a joke here or there. She ripped into me. My looks, my intelligence, and most humiliating of all, my sex life. She even compared me to her ex-boyfriend in a way I will never forget. I had come home early that day to surprise her. I had gifts, food, and a special present I had been saving for the right moment. Instead, I stood there in the basement, listening as the woman I loved turned me into a joke. That was the moment everything changed. I did not confront her right away. Honestly, I think I was in shock. The things she said stuck with me, looping in my head over and over. I barely ate, barely slept. I knew I had to end things, but after 2 years together, I wanted to do it right. I talked to a few close friends, my brother, even my mom. Every single one of them told me the same thing. Leave her. Fast. So I planned it out. I would meet with her in a place where she could not cause a scene, somewhere public but private enough that I could say what I needed to say. I wanted to stay calm. I wanted to give her a chance to explain herself, though I knew there was no excuse that could change my mind. We met at a wine bar downtown. She had been acting unusually sweet all week, which told me she either felt guilty or she had no idea what was coming. She showed up looking incredible. She flirted, touched my arm, whispered things she wanted to do later. Any other day, I would have been thrilled. That night, it just made me feel sick. As soon as we sat down, I started talking. My heart was pounding, but I had rehearsed this so many times in my head. I told her how much she had meant to me, how I had trusted her, how I had believed we had a future together. I even told her that I had been thinking about proposing soon. She interrupted me, smiling, saying how much she loved me. She had no idea what was coming. Then I looked her in the eyes and asked her if she loved me so much, why'd she trash me to Dylan? Her smile froze. At first, she played dumb. She acted confused, like she had no idea what I was talking about. She swore she had never said anything bad about me to Dylan. I just stared at her and said, "Come on, Jenna." When I told her I'd come home early on Monday and heard everything, she went quiet. For a second, I thought she might admit to it. But no, she doubled down. She insisted I must have misunderstood, that I was making things up, that she would never talk about me like that. I kept my voice steady. I told her I knew what I heard. I repeated some of the things she had said, word for word. I told her it was bad enough that she had lied about me, but even worse that she had done it just to impress Dylan. She kept denying it. She swore up and down that she was happy with me, that she loved me, that she thought I was smart, that she had never complained about her sex life. If I had not personally heard her say otherwise, I might have believed her. She was that convincing, but I had heard her, and I was done. I told her we were over. She stared at me like I had just spoken a foreign language. It was like the words did not register at first. Then she started crying. She begged me to reconsider. She told me she had planned to marry me one day. She asked how I could just throw everything away. I told her she had done that herself. She asked what she was supposed to do, where she was supposed to go. I reminded her that she had a lot of friends. She would figure it out. At that point, the tears stopped. Just like that, she switched. Now I was the bad guy. According to her, I was heartless. I was overreacting. I was pathetic. I was an idiot. She even told me she had never really loved me in the first place. She said she would have said no if I had proposed. Then, for good measure, she repeated the insult that had started all of this. She told me I was going to die alone. I told her I would rather be alone than be with someone as cruel as her. Then, out of nowhere, she screamed. Not words, just a loud, awful scream like a tantrum. Then she stormed out, called me disgusting, and left me sitting there stunned. I took a deep breath, paid the bill, and walked outside. She was standing there, crying again. For all the terrible things she had said, I still hated seeing her like that. It was freezing, and I did not want to leave her standing out in the cold. So I told her I would drive her home to get her things. She nodded. We got in the car. Neither of us spoke the entire ride. It was the longest silence of my life. By the time we pulled up to the house, my brother and his wife were already there. His wife stayed inside while my brother waited outside with me. I did not want to be alone when Jenna grabbed her things, and I needed witnesses in case she tried to spin things around on me later. She walked in, barely saying a word, and started collecting her essentials. There was no yelling, no dramatic outbursts, just quiet tension. After about 20 minutes, one of her girlfriends arrived to pick her up. Before she got in the car, I made sure to get my house key back from her. She hesitated, but eventually handed it over. I should have felt some relief when she left, but I did not. That night, my phone blew up. At first, the messages were apologetic. Then they became emotional. That turned into frustration, and then rage. It was a full cycle: apologies, anger, self-pity, insults, over and over. I refused to respond. The next morning, I sent her one final message. I told her that I had left her things on the porch and that she needed to pick them up while I was at work. I was not going to be there to deal with her anymore. The silence throughout the day made me think maybe she had accepted it. Maybe she had finally moved on. Then, just as I was about to head home, I got a single text from her. It was the nastiest thing I had ever read. She wished me every misfortune imaginable, threw in a few last insults about my body, and ended it with the same cruel words she had said before. She never really loved me. I did not answer. When I got home, my stomach dropped. My house was destroyed. At first, I thought maybe someone had broken in, but then I saw the pattern. This was personal. Furniture was flipped over and torn apart. The sinks were left running, and water had overflowed onto the kitchen floor. The refrigerator had been left wide open, and food was thrown everywhere. She had smashed things that were irreplaceable, things I had for years. The only small mercy? She had locked my dogs in a separate room so they would not get hurt. I do not know how she got inside. I had changed the locks after she left, but either she had made a spare key at some point, or she knew a way in that I had not thought about. And it did not stop at the house. I walked outside to check my vehicles. I have two, one for personal use and one for work. The second is an SUV, which I use for transporting animals when I make house calls. I had forgotten that I had once given her a spare key to it in case of emergencies. She had trashed the inside of the SUV too. Flour, tomato soup, everything dumped inside, covering the seats, the dashboard, the floor. I stood there, staring at the wreckage, wondering how in the span of 1 week I had gone from planning a proposal to standing in the middle of my ruined home, picking up pieces of my life. Just a week ago, I had taken her to a play. We had gone out with friends. We had spent an evening drinking and laughing while playing Monopoly. We had spent lazy mornings watching television. We had been intimate, and now everything was gone. It is unbelievable how quickly things can change. I was furious. More than that, I was humiliated. So I did something petty. I went online, ordered 100 pounds of baby carrots, and had them delivered straight to her friend's place. A box, labeled with her name. It arrived within an hour. The moment she got it, my phone lit up with texts. They were not just insults. She was livid. I will be honest, I do not regret it. The only thing I do regret is wasting that much food. Maybe she donated them. Maybe she threw them away. I do not care. It was the only satisfaction I got out of this entire situation. After that, I blocked her on everything. The past few days have been rough. I have not slept much. I have cried more than I care to admit. But for the first time since Monday, I feel like I did the right thing. She is not the person I thought she was. She is immature, cruel, and she clearly never respected me. I have spent a lot of time thinking about where things went wrong. Maybe I worked too much. Being a veterinarian means long hours, being on call, handling emergencies at all hours of the night. I always try to keep work and home separate, but sometimes it followed me home. Jenna had told me before that she felt like she came second to my job. Maybe in some ways she did. I had tried to be better. I tried to balance it. But at the end of the day, I was doing my best. I know I was not perfect, but I also know that nothing I did justifies how she treated me. There's a line between feeling neglected and being flat out cruel. And she crossed that line. So, Thank you to everyone who encouraged me to leave. Reading your words has helped more than I can say. Now it is time for me and my average-sized self to find someone who actually deserves me. Final thoughts. I did file a police report. I took photos of the damage, hoping my insurance will cover some of the costs. The chances of the police doing anything are slim since I cannot prove it was her, but at least I reported it. I thought about taking her to small claims court, but honestly, I just want her out of my life.